Hi friends, welcome to Book Talk. Friends, at times even your one eye can irritate somebody quite a lot. Now in this context, I'll take you through a story written by American writer Edgar Allan Poe, and the title of the story is The Telltale Heart. Now this particular story was published sometime in 1843. It is relayed by an unnamed narrator who endeavors to convince the reader about his sanity, but at the same point in time he has committed a murder. You could call it you could call this story as a story of self-confession, and since this story has been written, some movies also on self-confession, on the theme of self-confession, have been made, which you might have seen. There are only 5 characters in this particular story. There is this narrator who is unnamed, as I have already told you. Then you have the old man, and then you have 3 policemen who walk into the story towards their end. To me, the story appears to be a horror, and the entire story is written in first person, where the narrator stays with the old man in the same house. Even when the narrator is quite friendly and fond of the old man, but whenever he sees that the devil's eye in that old man, something goes wrong with this particular narrator, and he feels very uncomfortable and he feels like doing something. You could call this syndrome also as an over acuteness of the senses, that for no rhyme or reason, maybe a particular eye of a particular person starts bugging you. So you could call it as over acuteness of the senses. On seeing the eye, he becomes very aggressive and loses his cool. And it happens almost as a reflex. So one day, this narrator, when he gets very sick of this particular eye, he decides to murder the old man just to get rid of the evil eye. You could call it the Nazi's solution. Now, why I'm saying it is a Nazi solution, because during Hitler's time, Nazis pursued this methodology of liquidating anything they didn't like. If they didn't like Jews, they were liquidating Jews. So that's the approach this narrator takes towards that eye, that since he doesn't like it, he is going to liquidate the man only to get rid of the eye. The narrator soon starts planning for the murder, as a consequence of which he enters the room or the chamber of the old man on 7 nights. But when he finds that the old man is fast asleep and his eye is closed, he returns, because he has got no animosity with the old man. The only thing that irritates about the old man is that eye, that single eye, which he calls the devil's eye. Because he reacts only when he sees the vulture's eye or the devil's eye, the narrator each day carries a lantern along with him when he enters this particular old man's room. And so he enters 7 times, and each time he goes with that lantern. Now that particular lantern is covered with some black paper or cloth, and it's got a kind of a slit from where just a ray of light, just like a torch beam, goes across, and with that he sees the face of the old man, and on all the 7 occasions he finds that the eyes are closed, so he returns. But on the 8th night, when he gets across to the room, he finds he finally gets to see the old man's eye, which he calls as the evil eye. And when he sees that eye, he loses his temper. He loses his temper and he shrieks out of anger. And then he pulls the old man down from the bed and he overturns that heavy, huge bed onto him, and he sits on top of the bed and suffocates that old man to death. But before the death, when the narrator enters the room, his lantern actually slips out of his hand, because of which the old man wakes up, and he gets up and he sits on his bed, and he's awake for some time, and he looks around for the sound where it came from, but he's not quite able to figure out where the sound came from, and this particular narrator also stands in some corner quite still, so that he is not found out by the old man. And when he's standing there, he can almost hear the heartbeat of the old man in that pitch dark and pin drop silence. After some time, when the old man decides to go back to sleep and he kind of lies down, the narrator takes a chance. He goes close to the old man, and with the lantern, he is able to finally see that evil eye, and that's how he commits this murder and pulls him down and puts the bed over him. Now, after having killed the old man, he gets very gruesome, and he dismembers the body and removes the floor planks of the room, and puts all the entire body which is in pieces into a box, and puts it below the floor planks, and puts the floor planks back, and on top of that he puts all the furniture and the carpet and all that, so that nobody can suspect that there is a body beneath it. Now, upon hearing the shriek, when he had seen the eye, if you remember, he had shrieked or he had screamed, and because of that, somebody informs the cops. Perhaps some neighbors, they inform the cop that somebody was yelling or screaming here, and there is something going wrong. So then finally, 3 policemen, they walk into this particular house at 4 in the morning. So they ring the bell and get in, and they want to interrogate, and they want to see what is going around. So they go around the house, this narrator takes them around, and finally they come and sit in the same room where the body is beneath the floor plank, and they start asking questions of this particular narrator, and he starts giving very smart answers. And the police are also tired at 4 in the morning, so just as a devil's advocate, they keep asking a lot of questions, and this guy keeps answering all those questions very smartly. And he also says that he has not seen the old man for the last couple of days. Perhaps he's gone to the market or even his village, so he's not aware of all that. But then there is a change that occurs. Suddenly this narrator, he starts getting this old man's heartbeat. Now he starts getting that sound as if the old man's heart is beating, and initially that sound is very low, but gradually it starts increasing, it gets louder. And the fear that this particular the narrator is getting is that if he is hearing, even the cops are hearing it. So gradually he is talking to them, but this heartbeat sound is actually getting louder and louder. But it is actually not that heartbeat of the old man, because he is dead. It is his own conscience which is ticking and telling him that, boss, you've done something deviously wrong. And suddenly, when this sound becomes unbearable, he gets up, and in a very fearsome mood, and he yells at the cops that, okay, you are asking for this particular person. I am the guy who killed this fellow, this old man. His eye used to irritate me. And he had a vulture. One eye of his was a vulture's eye or an evil eye. And I could not tolerate that eye. So I have killed him and I have put him right underneath this floor plank where you are sitting. And so finally he confesses to his crime. Now this is when he is arrested for the crime. So the moral of the story is, it is hard to carry the baggage of crime solo. Sooner or later one has to confess it. So that's the moral behind the story. It's a very scary story if you go through it. I have just given you a synopsis of the short story, and it's very involving. And once you pick it up, you'll not be able to leave it in between. And I would like to give this particular story 9 out of 10. So friends, if you've not read this story and if you like horror, this is the story you should not miss out on. And if you've liked this particular program of mine, kindly share it, kindly subscribe our channel, and next week we'll come out with another good, interesting book or a story. Till then, goodbye from Book Talk.